Hi, this is Charles Lewis, and I'm here with my father, Chuck Lewis. We're here to tell you about something we've been working on now that might relate to something that just happened involving some very well-known CEO from a company called Microsoft, Bill and Melinda Gates. Just tell you a little about what we do. I hope you like and subscribe what we're doing here on YouTube. We're going to jump right in because, Chuck, he's been married to my mother since 1962, or 61, 62. And I've been, 62. And I've been married to my wife since 1990. So when we talk about Bill and Melinda Gates getting divorced after 27 years, how could that happen? Now let me ask you, Chuck, they've been married for 27 years, and they have unlimited resources. How could this happen, and what happened with those two?
Actually, this is really simple, and actually happens to everybody. People would may think, well, if they have a lot of money, it could work for them, or they should be able to get along pretty good. But all relationships go about the same. What we talk about is why relationships fail. Because what happens is that a couple, they meet each other, they fall in love, they spend lots and lots of money on a marriage, and they go pretty good. And basically, this is something to know, that most marriages have a sweet spot for 7 years before the downturn starts. Now, we have a reason why that downturn starts that we could talk about to you. And we want to share that with you. One of the things that can destroy a relationship quickly is to try and change the other person. Because it gives the message, I don't accept you the way you are. But that's what happens in relationships.
You think they were doing that? We're trying to change each other?
Yes. Because a lot of times, and even therapists tell people, well, you got to confront your spouse. You can't let them do that. They tell you that, well, it's their problem, but they don't give you the solution to the problem. Now, that's where we do something differently. We don't just tell you that it's their problem and that you have to put up with and feel frustrated. Because what relationships do is basically your body is built on anger. Anger is the part that controls and makes changes. It's a change agent. But we call it adrenaline, the fight and flight hormone. So if someone in the marriage keeps hitting your adrenaline, you're going to develop a fight attitude. But most people don't do anything when they get a fight attitude. What we want to do is set out to tell you that to use up that adrenaline so it's not there. So you don't have it, but you say it in a way that the other person feels better.
So, when we teach people our classes on how to do the Lewis approach, and we have the beginners class, the intermediate class, and the advanced class, we talk about the adrenaline and all that. Would you say that one of the things, like what happened with Bill and Melinda Gates, and one of the things we talk about is your needs aren't being met. At the beginning, they started dating, and everything was new, and they had the kids and all that stuff, and needs were getting met, and then over time they didn't get met. And would you say that by their needs not getting met, that would help elevate the adrenaline level, which caused the decline of the marriage? Is that, you think, might be fair?
Absolutely. See, because here's the issue is, getting your needs met, you have to use anger. And people don't, or they use an anger that causes more trouble.
When you say anger, what do you mean? You mean that Bill or Melinda Gates should be yelling and attacking each other? Is that the kind of anger you're talking about?
No, they may end up doing that, but that's not the way we talk about anger.
So when you say anger, what is anger in terms of the Lewis approach? Just real quick. What do you mean by that?
Anger is a change agent. It's what you do to get your needs met, get what you want. And so what happens is, you have to say it in a way that the person wants to do things for you, opposed to saying, you could say, honey, do this for me, work this out, make this for dinner, or whatever, instead of, honey, what are we having for dinner? That sounds very neutral, sounds good, but it causes stress. And over time, the person said, well, you make the dinner, and don't stop asking me all these questions. That's what happens. So you got to get your needs met. You want a chicken dinner, you got to say, honey, make a chicken dinner.
So one of the things that they could have done, had they known, is to help prevent this breakup, this failed marriage basically, was to be able to get their needs met using this anger you're talking about. And one of the things we teach in our classes, anger is a change agent, you said a few minutes ago. So that would be an instructional statement. To tell people what to do to meet your needs, which means your needs are met, which means you don't have to have this failed marriage and divorce. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, because what people do, and therapists do this too. I'm a therapist. At least I used to be one. I'm not a therapist anymore because it takes too long and many times it does not work. So what a therapist will do is they'll try and blame someone in the relationship. So they're not going to get any help there. Now you say, well, they have a business together and they ran the business. Business have structure to them. You have to do certain things specifically. Now in a marriage, what happens is that you begin to grow, you begin to change as your age changes, and you have to be able to communicate to the person in a way that you don't criticize them. But most people, it's a criticism and say, well, no, you didn't do this right. You know, you should have known better. And things like that that causes the trouble in the relationship.
So one of the things we talk about, you talk about what causes trouble in the relationship. One of the things we do in our classes, we have contextual examples. We have the warm-ups so people learn how to do some of the concepts of the Lewis approach verbal system. And then we put up a contextual example. That means we put you in a situation and you practice what we taught you in the beginner's class and so on. So it's a skill. It's not therapy, it's a skill. So back to Bill and Melinda Gates. They said, and I said, you know, in the publicity that that they didn't want to get into the specifics of what happened with their marriage and why it ended up breaking up. But we know, knowing the Lewis approach, we know what the solution, the problem was, because it's always the same. Needs weren't being met. So let's look at that. What could somebody say? Let's say you've been married 10 years, or 20 years, or 27 years like Bill and Melinda Gates. What could they actually have done or said to help save this marriage and help it break it up? Specifically, let's say assume then that Bill Gates or Melinda was saying, well, you know, you're never at home. You're always traveling, and you're not meeting my needs. Or you always talk about business. Why don't you ever talk about our daughter or us or me? What could they say something like that to address that issue so that they don't have those needs not getting met that causes the breakup? What specific lines could they say?
What they could say is, do this for me. Work it out, go over this way. You tell the person exactly what to do for you. Let's go on a vacation. Work it out till we can go on a vacation on such and such a date. Tell me that you could do that. And one might say, well, gee, I don't want to go on vacation now. Then it's a battle at that point if they just use the regular way. But if they say, well, tell me what gets in the way, or explain that to me. Now, it smooths out the concept of their relationship by not increasing the stress in their life. One of the things that causes the breakup of relationships, whether it's a marriage or friendship, is trying to change the other person. Well, even if you change the other person, it's not going to work too well unless you get your needs met, unless you get what you want from the other person.
What they might do also, what you just said here, is in the Lewis Approach book, you could pull out the Handy Magic Words booklet, right? And then maybe Bill or Melinda could have used this little booklet and said something like, let's say they're always on the road and they're not spending enough time with me. They could take the booklet and say, Bill, do this for me. Stay with me tonight and tell me you love me. I'd appreciate that. Something like that, maybe?
Yes.
Or in the Magic Words booklet here, you might say, Melinda, let's say it was the other way around. Melinda, hold off on talking about business tonight. Put that aside. Talk with me and ask me how I'm feeling. I'd feel a lot better about that. Something like that?
Yes.
Good. And so that's the Lewis approach.
Yes.
Not therapy.
Therapy.
So that's and you used to be a therapist, so you're actually doing the Lewis approach now.
Not only was I a therapist, I was a very good therapist. I worked with people and they got better. Everybody got better. But therapy takes a long time. And essentially, a therapist, and I did this too, teach people how to create guilt in the other person. And that's very damaging, to create guilt. Like, you should have known that I wouldn't like this. How in the world would they know that? They're focusing on their own problems. They would say, well, my therapist said that you are causing too many troubles for me. Who's a therapist? Are they God? No, they don't know what they're talking about. They're guessing at it. So that they make you feel guilty instead of helping you use up the anger to get what you want.
What you want. And I'm excited about when you want, but the title of the book is Getting What You Want and Being Liked For It. We're going to tell you more about what we're doing. We just want to give you a little introduction of what we're doing right now. And we're going to like and subscribe this video if you did like it, and if you would like for you to subscribe, because every week we're going to be trending. Like last week they talked about Kim Kardashian was thinking about marrying Van Jones. Well, guess what? We could tell it. She just came off a marriage. There are certain tools and skills she can learn in this book, or anybody, or Kanye if he starts dating somebody else, to help prevent the breakup, right?
Yes.
And the Lewis Approach can do that for you. So anyway, so we'd like to want to like and subscribe. We're Lewis Approach, Charles Lewis here, Chuck Lewis here. If you want to learn more about this, feel free to put in the comments below what you liked about it, what questions you have. We'd be happy to answer those. And if you want, you can actually call this gentleman right here at 213-280-0718. He can tell you more personally.
Love to hear from you.
All right.